going to bring in another fellow prepper and survivalist and former New York police officer who's going to weigh in some of our justice system stuff going on currently. We have some main new unprecedented things happen this week. So we're going to hear from him. So if you would give me and help Howell in a warm welcome for Brian Brawdy is going to be. And you saw the warning on the thumbnail, Becky and Brian banter, and we can banter. So
welcome.
Brian, welcome. Say hello to the pack.
How are you, my friend? I have to tell you, this whole thing, this whole relationship began with you and me bantering. A lot of people don't know that. It is. So it's an honor to be here. Big shoes to not even fill, but just big shoes to try to step into for the moment. So
yeah,
thank you very much for having me.
We wanted some experience since I am the, as they know, the novice prepper and new. I definitely know way more than I did ever from being in this profession, just by studying and looking for partners and things like that. And I definitely am more aware of a ton of things. But you are the expert. You will bring some basis for some of the conversation, where I just like to give things away, and stay tuned, we might, because you know when Eric's away, Becky will give away.
Right. Does your co-host get? Does the co-host on the short list of things when everything starts?
Do you want me to give
away?
you away?
No. Yeah, please. You should talk to my wife. She'd be like, yeah, please get the heck rid of them.
Yeah, so Brian, just to give a quick synopsis for those who haven't met you, Brian's been on a couple of our live streams. We did an interview with him a while back. And if you just, he's a great partner for our brand and an advocate and believes in the product. So Brian, just give him a little bit of your professional background as well as your survival expertise, and then we'll get going into some hot topics.
That sounds great. Well, I should first say, only because you mentioned it, Becky, about Eric's video day before yesterday, and how much it just struck a nerve in me. I remember thinking that the hair stood up on the back of my neck. At the same time, tears started to fill in my eyes, because I've taken a very similar oath, both in military and civilian law enforcement, to preserve, protect, and defend, right, the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic. So it was just a great thing to see, and just an absolute honor to call Eric a friend, because he was so spot on. I didn't even have the words to describe it. He was absolutely spot on with his assessment, and I'm really sorry to be here today, because there's no way I can fill in for him, but I'll give it my best.
Matt, what are you trying to say, that Brian's just going to school me today? He's going to teach me something, folks, so hang in. So just a precursor, I just want to give people a chance to get a shoelace or some paracord. Brian's going to teach us something later that requires like 2 feet of something. It could be a tie. A belt's probably a little too thick, but a shoelace, take it right out of your shoe. If you want to learn something, hands-on demonstration, stick around and grab that for later. But yes, I wanted to say, I see that Becky's going to cause a ruckus. Brian's going to give Becky a little whooping. Yeah, okay. I appreciate that, Beck. And just early on, I want to say a shout out to our mods. You know that we love you dearly. We'd be nothing without the organization of you guys in the thread and in the chat. Jan, JT, B, Jan. We really, really, really appreciate it. So thank you for being here. And Eric, where are you? Show up.
And Becky, can I ask you a quick question? Am I allowed to ask a favor, since I don't write? I'm like a temporary fill-in. Can I ask everyone, because you're probably you're too gracious and too professional to mention it, but I think you all were like just 75 away from 10,000 here on YouTube. Is that correct? So is it okay with you and Bobby if I just go, look, whatever mod means, I don't know the term, but whatever moderator, thank you. Moderators, can you go, if there's anyone else you can think of, you're like, wow, that would be a great channel, and most certainly with all the cool stuff, Eric, the very pertinent stuff that I say all the time. It's getting hot out here. Time to turn up the EC. Can I ask people just to invite family and friends?
Absolutely. Like if you can get us, I don't know, something. I'm definitely going to give something away, but I'm going to give something extra extraordinary away if we get to 10,000 while we're on this live.
And how many shy are you?
We're at 9,934, and we may well hit 10 during this live. It's climbing fast.
9,934.
Wait, 935. It's going
935. Up. Say so. Keep it. I feel like Jerry Lewis. Keep the phone lines open, right? You just everyone call in, make your pledge. We're only here till 7 o'clock Eastern.
Make your pledge.
Right. I said in my post, you'd have a chance to be a part of history, and it will be history when you hit 10,000.
We'll look back when we were how many, Buddy? What did we have this summer? Yeah. We had like 1,000, maybe?
We hit 1,000 this summer. We started out with like 7 or 8 this year. Or last year.
Wow.
700 or 800 or
100.
1,000?
Yeah,
100.
100.
That's
Okay,
under
yeah.
1,000 folks.
Yeah.
So that Becky still needs a raise. Maybe Becky can get a raise if we can get this to like 11,000. And just to reiterate, Becky did get a raise this year, so I do appreciate. I don't want to be ungrateful, but I still like the campaign. Remember that RAISE stands for Ready Always in Case of Situational Emergencies. I made an acronym out of the abuse until I got it.
And Becky's like Tom Cruise in the latest Top Gun. They tell him just get to 10,000 miles an hour, and he goes, I don't know. Talk to me, Goose. I think I can spread it. I think I can push it to 10.
11,
all the way to 11. So I wish you all the luck in getting a 10,000. Funniest scene of the whole movie. Where are you? Earth. It was just
that little
great.
Boy, I was just talking about that last week. I watched it. Yeah. So, so Brian, give him your professional background and why you're going to weigh in on some of the indictment statements for today, if you will.
Sure, and it's terribly apolitical of me. I would just say that as a former New York police officer, I have I've made an arrest. My first ever arrest as a criminal detective was for the very charge, 134th or 137th of the charges former President Trump was charged with. But I've made an arrest. My very first one as a detective was for falsifying business records in the first degree, which, as everyone knows now, is a felony. But what strikes me as odd about it is that you always have to, right? Because you hear it now, it's popular, everyone's saying the grand jury can indict a ham sandwich. I always like meatball subs. So my line has always been the grand jury can indict a hoagie, a meatball hoagie. But that being said, they can do just about anything they want because there's no defense attorney to rise and object. The prosecution can say anything they want. So just because you return an indictment, one would think that you would have made mention of all the different charges that go into substantiating that indictment. And when he, in a very coy way, says, well, I don't have to lead, he doesn't have to lead with, but he most certainly has to mention the underlying crime that would have made it a felony of falsifying business records. And I would imagine, and I'm no legal scholar, but I would imagine it is an absolute violation of the Constitution to know what the government is charging you with. You can't say, well, we're going to play hide and seek with the charges. Here's some of them. We'll tell you at a later date what the real charge is. I can't imagine a judge ever allowing me to do that. So the whole thing just seems off to me. And one would hope, if you listen to the people on the left side of the aisle, the Democratic side of the aisle, people are saying, well, we had hoped there was more of a smoking gun. We had hoped that there was more to it than that. And I suspect people on the other side are thinking, well, we hope there was more to it. But there really isn't a lot of there, to quote the famous author. So it'd be interesting. I think it's the greatest time in the history of the world to be alive, just to see how this works out.
I think people might beg to differ. I think people are a little scared to be alive in this day and age.
Look, after 5 brain surgeries for a tumor, every day I'm alive is a great one. So you're right. You probably caught me. If you interviewed me tomorrow, I'd say, no, forget everything I said yesterday. Today is the greatest day to be alive. So for me, every day is a great day, and most certainly watching this is, along with everyone else, falsifying business records first is a felony, but it's not going to stick.
I got sucked in. I mean, I find the whole thing, again, I don't know my law inside and out, but it is, a first time that a former president has been, committed to that, and like all these terms, and like what is this going to lead up, and like it's definitely something to watch. It's something to pay attention to. It is part show, right? Like our taxpayer dollars closed down the streets of New York City so that he can go to the airport in a nice police escort. So I mean, he's a showman. So there's a lot of rules and there's a lot of legal stuff, and that's why it does matter when we pay attention to who we elect into office and who we have making those rules for us, because this is the product of those either great laws that you believe in or the loopholes that they're getting around. So I think it's very, very interesting, and it makes me want to continue to learn my legal system and just pay attention to when I need to be voting and what I need to do for stand up for the things that I believe in. So, and
I would say Lisa Foster, I scale up on screen, just made a valid point that they're after him, and one would think that if I were the judge and I had a daughter that worked for the opposition party, if I had a daughter that worked for the current president, and I was the judge overseeing the prosecution of the #1 leading candidate on the opposite side of the aisle, I'm not an expert on constitutional recusal, but it would seem to me, wouldn't that be a heck of a Thanksgiving if you're the judge and you decide to hopefully be impartial, how you'd have to explain to a daughter that works for the opposite administration? That would be, boy, you talk about families not getting along when they get together at Thanksgiving. That would be a heck of a, boy, would you want to be a fly on that wall where the judge goes, well, what'd you want me to do? Well, I wanted you to do this or that. So I can't believe he hasn't recused himself. I can't believe they won't get a change of venue, because in Manhattan, if you've ever been, it's not terribly red. And I'd be saying this if it were a terribly blue, Manhattan, the borough of Manhattan, if it were terribly blue when they were doing this, or terribly red and they were doing it to a blue guy, it would be the same thing. There's what's right, and there shouldn't be a gray area. We talked earlier about the scales of justice. There's a reason.
Do we have that, Bobby? Can we get it?
Oh, Bobby's good. I'm sure he has it.
He definitely has it, but explain this, because I think it's really, I like a good art history lesson as well. So, well,
the scales of justice, the reason that she's holding them up is it's good
Bobby,
or
can
bad,
that
right?
Zoom in or no? Can that take full
Evil
screen?
or not evil, right? Innocent or guilty, being held, and she has her sword in hand to met out the punishment once the scales tip one way or another. But what you see in this, Becky, is that she's blindfolded because she's not, right? She's not supposed to tip the scales one way or another, which is great news for you and I. But in this particular instant, it's also a wake-up call, because if the government could go after a former president of the United States, not to say anyone's above the law, you and I both agree on that. We all agree on that. But if the government could go after a former president of the United States, and I think political leaders from around the world are right to be saying today, United States, don't you dare comment on democracy anymore to us. Don't try to tell us how great you are. But the flip side of that scales of justice is that if they could go after a former president, Becky, they can come after you. They can come after Bobby. They come after Lisa.
They're going to be so bored of me. They're going to be like, oh.
Well, maybe not you. They were like, oh, no, not her. But we'd go after her family. So if the government can go after a name as big as Trump, a former president, what did the government do to you and me? And that should...
he has a little bit more money to be funneled around to maybe potentially shady things. So, I mean, they're bored of me. The algorithms have already stopped following me. Oh. so they're just like cat videos and occasionally like a facial product is what I'm getting. But
they gave up on me a long time ago.
I do agree with you that, like, you know, if Trump is a little bit more of a high profile person, but again, I do think that, you know, no one is above the law, like you said, and I do think that it can be a little bit scary when if you are in the right and you're proven to be wrong. I think that's the scariest thing for everyone, right? Is that when you are telling the truth or you are not guilty of the crime that you're being accused of, it is a frustration, lonely place to be. And when the money is, and you have the better legal system against you and you are the ones with the power making the rules, then the loopholes aren't so evident for you. So
can I tell you a quick personal story that I don't think I've ever shared in public?
Please.
But back in the day when I was in law enforcement, there was a judge that I would appear in front of, and I think he's gone home by now. I think he's passed over. But there was a judge that I would appear of, and it always bothered me, Becky, because just like a grand jury, all I ever had to be responsible for was proving that there was not a reasonable doubt, that I was fairly certain that this bad guy or bad girl, right, not to be sexist, bad guy or bad girl had actually committed the crime. So what I would do is I would take my, which is probably why they promoted me to detective. I looked horrible in a uniform. I would take my uniform allowance and I would put it towards what were called Gilbert law books. They're big, thick, red books. And I would put my monies towards those books just because, to continue your point, I would have felt horrible had I been responsible for jailing someone or arresting someone and partaking in someone being convicted if they were innocent. So I took the money for gun belts and dry cleaning and pressing my Stetsons and shoe polish and all the rest of that. I took it and put it towards these books because they would come out with annotations. They would come out with monthly updates from the Supreme Court because, yes, I wanted to be honorable, but when it came time to fall asleep, Becky, I didn't want to have any party. I didn't want to be responsible for the beginnings of the conviction of an innocent person. So I worked pretty seriously to make sure that I had studied to such a degree. And to be honest with you, there were times where I came in and the prosecutor said, where did you learn that, right? How did you, they were called district attorneys at that point for me. And you would go in and they'd say, well, how do you know that? And I go, well, here's the, the chapter, the title, the verse, here's the code, here's the site, I believe it was still called. Here's the site within the law book for your, to address your very reason, because I didn't want to be responsible for sending an innocent person to jail.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you say, like, put your head on a pillow without knowing the rules. Like, I think being a lawyer, like, even in like on a very low level of like social media and tech and things like that, things are constantly evolving, like constantly evolving. And with law, every case dictates a new law or a new instance. For instance, I used to own a gym, and it turned out that our business partner was a peeping Tom. Right, but he was a co-owner. Check, yeah. Just this. I'm giving you just an example of laws changing very quickly. But when he was under like investigation, he pleaded no contest. Right, so technically an admission of guilt, but nothing's going to happen to him. But what happened was, because he was a part owner, we were 50-50 partners at the time. Lesson learned, folks, do not give someone else 50-50. Do a 51-49 because it causes you less problems down the road. But anyway, so he was a 50-50 partner. And because he was an owner, they said he couldn't be a peeper because he was not on the property of another. Right. So the law was so old, it didn't take into voyeurism, cameras, and the fact that a peeping Tom was like usually looking over the fence. Right. So he was in our building as an owner, peeping over the showers, looking into. But I hope he's watching. This would be so great. This one's for you, Alois.
In his defense, he could have been making sure no one was trying to take toiletries. They weren't taking the soap. They weren't taking towels.
I wish I still had the nightly news with the whole coverage of this thing. But in the end, the law was changed because of that. The law was changed because of that case, that you could be an owner and then still also be convicted of a peeper. Yeah. So again, like you said, the laws changed quickly. If I were a defense attorney or a prosecutor or whatever, I would definitely know my law. And they do, but they constantly change and rules are being rewritten constantly.
All the time.
So for me to put my head on the pillow, like I just don't have the fiber, and this might be my mental weakness. So you guys are going to come for me. This is why I'm not going to make it through the apocalypse. But so this mental fortitude and mental toughness, is it better to be a narcissist? Because I feel like to have no conscience when you put your head on the pillow, I feel like you get a better shot at survival. So maybe I need a couple lessons in how to survive by being a narcissist. Any thoughts on that, Brian?
Yeah, I would say the inverse is also true. It's the narcissist that will end up, within circumstance, a narcissist that will end up surviving at least the initial run, right? Because
that's
all they're focused on. But I think narcissism gets a bad name, and I'm fascinated by the number of people that use that title. Oh, you're a narcissist. And it's because they don't like the way you talk to them, right? It's
no, I'm all for like a healthy dose of ego and survival.
Sure.
Yeah, 100%. So narcissism is to me where you actually can never be wrong. You never, ever can be. You won't come to the table to negotiate because you're already right, right? So
you're already right. Well, there's a fine line between ignorance and arrogance. I wrote today that they're the flip side of the same coin.
Hi, White Hammer. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You're ignorant as to what it is, but your arrogance doesn't allow you to admit that you could be wrong. So I'm with you. I love human
behavior. We could go on this for a long time, and that's just particular topic in itself. But I do think it gives you a one-up when you can power through that. You're going to make it through a situation, and that like you're pig-headed enough to do it. So good for you.
Well, you have to want to survive.
I might be following behind them.
You want to survive, right? And either for yourself or your family or your friends. And, you and I have talked before off camera that the key to all survival is really identifying your crutches, in my estimation, identifying your creature comforts, identifying your conveniences. And because all an emergency is, it basically means your creature comforts are taken, right? Your conveniences are gone. You lose your power. You lose this, you use that. And that's why I say all the time, what I love about nutrient survival and just the way it's constructed is that you never have to stress. If you have a pantry full of nutrient survival, that's one of the things you can put behind you because you don't have to stress about it. You know food is covered. But outside of that, what are the conveniences? What are the creature comforts that you and I have become so comfortable with that in an emergency situation, you go, oh, I could never do without power. Sure you could. I could never do without running water. We're going to talk
a little bit about that in just a moment.
Oh, we are? Okay, good. Sure you could. I think survival is the understanding that you're a heck of a lot tougher than you think you are, right? Yeah. Once the food is taken care of, you're a heck of a lot smarter, faster, stronger than you give yourself credit for. And I think preppers just tap into that sense of strength and wherewithal, come what may.
Well, I think that the creature comforts can also be, brought into like what you think you need to, to survive, right? So like if you need anything, anything external in your daily life, like can you make it without coffee? Can you make it without coffee? Should you try that? I definitely can. I go in and out, but I definitely prefer life with it. I'm a much better person on some caffeine. Some caffeine.
But could you survive minus it? Absolutely, you could. Right? You're an athlete, in yoga, in terms of so you could absolutely survive. Could you survive without electricity? Sure, you could. Have you ever gone to the bathroom in an outhouse? Clearly, you survived without running water.
I prefer the woods. It's a lot cleaner.
I'm just saying, right? Right? Talking about public restrooms.
He's a survivalist, so we can talk. We can talk.
We can talk about it. So all I'm saying is make a checklist of what you think your creature comforts are, and you're stronger and faster than smarter than that whole list combined. And that's what it takes to survive, is an understanding that you're a lot better than you might believe that you are. Most certainly that society attempts to convince you than you are. And they want to do that because they want the government to come in and help you. They want, right, the big brother to come riding in on the horse and save you. Well, the reason why preppers get such a bad name is because we don't look for other people's help first and foremost,
I think that's not self-reliance is the ultimate, you're less burden on society by taking care of yourself, carrying your weight, right? Like on any team. If we look at our country as a team, right? You carry your weight. And then if you can, and you are strong enough to then extend a hand and elevate somebody else, I think that's super important. And that's what a lot of our military, and we're grateful for that, is that there's a lot of people out there that can carry their own weight and four other times the amount of their weight, not just in, it might just be an attitude or in their ability to help and heal, right? But it also could actually be in a physical weight load, right? So
that's another great point, Becky. That's another great point you bring up, because who would want to adopt the karma of saying, I'll make someone else responsible for my survival? A lot of what makes a prepper is we don't want to put another human being in harm's way. Well, why don't you just dial 911? Well, notwithstanding the argument of how long it takes someone, if they even answer the phone, if you don't get a steady busy signal, if the phone lines are still even up, who wants to adopt the karma of subjecting someone else to whatever you're confronting when you might want to be doing that yourself? So I think you raise a valid point. It's about being your own emergency services responder, because you'd feel horrible about calling someone else into harm's way when you should be that line in your sand. Your family should say, look, I'm behind dad's back. I'm behind mom's back. I know that they'll confront whatever's coming at us. And why let someone else adopt that for you? And remember, police officers, when you see on the side of the car, preserve and protect, the Supreme Court has upheld constantly that the police aren't necessarily responsible, legally responsible, to put their life on the line to save yours. It's a soft goal. Preserve and protect, right? It's to keep society as a whole.
I think that some of our law enforcement and military would put their life on the line, no doubt.
That's why we do it.
Hard stance, yeah. And there are definitely some are definitely more. I mean, you just know certain people that they just carry themselves. Like I know a lot of am I allowed to curse, Bobby? No, bad butt people, bad.
Sure. We can say ass.
Badass people out there, and they are the most soft-spirited, humble people, but they are like ninja protectors. Like you wouldn't.
Well, what does Jordan Peterson say? Jordan Peterson says all the time, you better be evil. You better be a monster. You better have the ability that in a split second to rise to defend the people around you. And then 8 to 10 hours for the rest of the day, you're a teddy bear. But the key to being successful is to have the ability to out-brutal the brutal in those moments and then go back to be a regular guy or a regular girl. But if you look up Dr. Peterson, he says all the time, you better be a monster. Because if you're not a monster, you don't know the evil that's aligned against us. So you're not a monster all the time, but when the time comes for you to rise to the challenge, to out-brutal the brutal, as I like to say, you're prepared well on to do it. Out-brutal the brutal.
Brian Brawdy says, Brian Brawdy, out-brutal the brutal. I feel like we got a lot. Bobby, can you say hi to the peeps out there? Because they've got a lot of hi Bobbies going on.
Hello, peeps.
Hello.
I want a picture of him. Did I see something about we could get over 10,000 if we show his picture?
No.
He's supposed to be on camera? Did I not see that?
We're at 9,958 right now. So we're going to hit it during this live stream.
58.
Oh, yes.
So I have a couple of points to talk to that. So yeah, tell your friends, get your kids to subscribe.
42.
Don't let them unsubscribe.
42.
Subscribe for like a month.
What is that? Right. Now's not the time to hit the kids off the internet.
Don't get the kids on the internet.
Yeah, like an old guy. Don't make me come out there.
Just get them off the cat videos and get them on YouTube just for a little bit. Have them comment something.
How many episodes of Paw Patrol can they watch, right?
Oh my God, it's so cute.
I know
a lot. They can watch a lot. So we were talking to a man, a new partner, Wendell Adams. He's from the Prepared Wanderer. And we have a video coming out with him in a couple weeks. But he was really enlightening on this sense, and this is kind of in your wheelhouse, that's why I'm going to bring it up. But he was like, you have skills, right? Skills. So you might not like want to go out and like hunt or fish or carve something or light a fire or be able to do this or that. But he was saying that skills in mental wherewithal are transferable. Right. So if you can do something, you could then do something else. Do you agree with that? Like that survival skills are transferable? And
yeah, and I would say only because it's something near and dear to my heart, even before the brain tumor, even before all the surgeries, that there is absolutely something to neuroplasticity, which is why we'll talk about knots in a bit. Your brain constantly works to rewire itself, right? That's what epigenetically, above the genetics, that's what a brain does. It's constantly looking for feedback to rewire yourself. Now, if you got a golf ball sized tumor, then my brain had to rewire quite a bit for me to even be able to stand and walk. But a part of what your friend was saying was that when you get smarter, who was it? Oliver Wendell Holmes. I think it may have been Sr. Oliver Wendell Holmes Sr. said that a person's mind, once stretched, never regains its original dimension. Right? Or Emily Dickinson, the brain is wider than the sky. If you can imagine it, you can create it. So I think being a prepper means that you're constantly asking your mind to do something outside of the status quo so that when an emergency hits, you go, yeah, I got to tell you, that's a little out of the norm, but I've handled out of the norm when it came to knot tying. I've handled out of the norm when it learned how to swim. I've handled out of the norm, blah, 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 blah. And I think your mind is smart enough, resilient enough, that if you get good at out-brutaling the brutal, right? If you breathe in, you exhale, you scan the situation, and then you take action, it's progressively adapted. Just like you want to get strong in the biceps, you do bicep curls. I think he's right that preparedness makes you strong just like any other muscle in your body. Your mind responds to progressive adaptation, and the repetition of doing something brand new is what your mind lives for. Think about it.
Yeah, no, the neuroplasticity of your brain. Yeah, to diversify the brain, just like you diversify the preps. So if you're not good at something, you learn a new skill every day. Your brain is going to be a little bit flummoxed to start, but then it's gonna adapt, right? And then the most important thing also for the mind and the it's to stay is the socialization, right? To have a team. And I was actually talking to another friend, a team of people that of like-mindedness and not like-mindedness, right? Like if someone doesn't agree with you or somebody has a different skill, then you're going to grow. You're only as good as the people on your team, right? So that you can grow together, that you bring something to it that is different from the others. So I was talking to another, hold on, pivot, different frame.
Oh, wow. I mean, we could have used a second camera. Oh, no, it's not turned on. Sorry, I can't pivot this way.
I was trying to get the wolf to bite my face. Bobby, tell me if I got it.
How'd it go? Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Rubbing noses. Very good.
But we were also talking about who's going to be on your apocalypse team, right? Like, so like people have bug out locations and they also have people. So basically, you guys, it's creating another 15-minute city. You know how I love the 15-minute city. Everyone's going to go like, don't do the line. Okay, I'm going to live in the line, right? And that's I'm going to have. So, but if you had an apocalyptic team, right, who would be, like, what skill would you bring, right? Because you want the team of all the same. Like, if you have all hunters, well, who's going to be cooking and then who's going to be protecting and who's going to be, right? So if you have a skill, some skill, and you have the ability to adapt and improvise, right? You're going to be more valuable to that team, right? But even having a trade or a skill is highly valuable when you're in truth in numbers, right? So
well, you want to be able to barter, right? If you get in a situation where people go, I'm supposed to give you food. Why? What are you good at? Well, I can do X, Y, or Z. So even if it's a skill that you can barter.
I'm going to learn how to tie a knot today.
You can learn how to tie a knot. I would say, and I get it. A lot of times people give me a hard time, but they go, "What's your #1 survival tool?" And I go, not. Everyone wants the head in the woods to survive, right? What is it? 95% of the people live in the city, but everyone wants the head into the woods. I do it all the time, right? All the time backpacking out in the middle of nowhere. But when you think of survival, I like taking books. Like, I have a book that I brought just for you, Becky, a book of useful knots, right?
Oh,
I got a
Becky
book.
and Brian, go knots.
Yeah, go knots. Knots. Here's a first aid book. What I do is I take every book I can find of information that I don't know, that I'm not great at, and I put it right on an iPad. So if it's on airplane mode in an iPad, and you have any ability to... Oh, we're talking about that as well? Yeah.
No,
so my #1 survival tool is the iPad, full of stuff I don't have time to learn. Like, everyone knows the Heimlich maneuver. Hopefully everyone knows CPR. Everyone should know how to stop a wound from bleeding. But in a panic situation, sometimes your mind just doesn't work all that great. So I like having an iPad with absolutely everything that I could possibly need: herbs, natural painkillers, knots, first aid, finding food sources, making shelters, making all of this. How can you do this? How can you do that? I like having an iPad that's a storehouse. And people say, well, the internet will be the first thing to go. Great. I don't need the internet. I download it, right? You don't leave it in the cloud. You download it right to your iPad, so that in an emergency situation, you have someone right there, Becky, that it may not be that person that you want, because let's suppose that I pick you to be on my team. How the heck am I going to get to you? If the grid goes down right now, this screen goes black, how am I getting to Reno?
We talked about this. We don't have any 1996 gas-guzzling trucks to get us there with extra containers of gas to go 2,000 miles. But that's a problem, right? Because we have, but we also have something going on in the universe right now that is kind of related to this, like, download it so that you could use it without it getting wiped out, right? So that, like, the EMP, right? Yeah. So we have something going on in the universe right now. Bobby, what is that? Do we have a picture of that? This is cold.
Ooh, there you go.
Oh my goodness. So we've got some fun solar flares going on. And Brian, we were talking about this before, and I'm like, well, if the solar flare goes off or the EMP goes off when I'm sleeping, what do I care, as long as I get up on time? And I go, well, how's my alarm gonna go off? And he's like, well, if you download it, the wave will go, but the phone will still work if the battery is charged. So give us a little schooling on that thought. And we also, coming up down the road, we are going to be interviewing Arthur Bradley from the EMP doctor. So we're going to talk all things EMP coming down the road. So little shout out of future for that. So
well, listen, everyone, make sure you tune in for that one, because like Eric said in a recent news report that he did, how do we know that the China balloon, how do we know that test flight, right? Everybody and their brother that I know, and their sister, everybody and their brother and sister said, look, China's gathering real-time information, right? They didn't have a stenographer in the hot air balloon writing crap down, so that when we finally brought down the balloon, oh, we better get to her clipboard, or we better get to his voice recorder. They were downloading it in real time. Well, if we let that balloon go by, How do you know that North Korea couldn't send a balloon to trigger an EMP that brings down portions of the grid?
No, that's what they were saying. The nuclear war is going to be. It's not going to be the traditional like war games. It's going to be electronic disruption. You know, the grid, the electronics, the computers, the banking electronics, all of it. So it's going to be just a big disruption, and that's really going to throw us for a loop.
That's a very valid point, and I would remind everyone listening. I don't have to. I know I'm preaching to the choir, so let me just say that I'm reminding myself that Sun Tzu's Art of War, if you look at the stratagems, I know Eric has spoken of them. You look at the ancient Chinese stratagems. These guys and girls know warfare. And a part of the warfare is you never destroy their infrastructure. They don't want to use nuclear weapons. If they can bring down the grid and then bring in armies, that's a part of Sun Tzu's Art of War. And if you've never read it before, it may be something you just want to take a look at, because the Chinese have cornered the market. If you've ever been to China, you understand the concept of face, and you understand how they're how belligerent they can be. Even recently, when they said President Xi got all worked up because we met on U.S. soil, McCarthy met with the president of Taiwan. So they're even offended by that. So I would remind everyone when they say, oh, we can beat them hands down, these are the people that crafted the art of war, and the warring dynasties, they know their stuff. And when they say you attack them in the east so that when their attention is to the east, as Eric said, then you bring the assault to the west, these guys and girls know military action, and we should pay attention to that, because you're absolutely right that the next nuclear war probably won't be nuclear in terms of nuclear in the cities, right? They'll detonate a nuclear weapon to detonate on top of the Earth's surface, and it'll bring down the power grid. And I just saw a listener mention that, well, I thought solar flares only affected the part of the world directly facing the sun at that time. Yeah, but if a third or a half of the world loses its grid, it cascades around the whole globe. Mm-hmm. Right? So when people say, well, the nuclear fallout's there, till the prevailing westerlies grab it. Right? You ever been in a situation where you smell a wildfire and then you realize wildfire's nowhere near you? The jet stream brought the smell of the wildfire to you?
We live that. I call it smoke fest. And, you know, it could be burning in California, but we will, because we're in a valley and the mountains surround us like a nice big giant bowl, it likes to hang out.
It likes to hang out. What do they call it? Inversion? Just like in Salt Lake City, I think they call it inversion.
Yeah, it's definitely, I'm hoping with all the rain, snow, and the snowiest winter on record, the second snowiest winter on record around here, that the water is coming from the mountains. Keep watering it down. They say the brush fires can be more, but not the deep woods fires, because of, you know, the grass will grow higher from all the water, but at the same time, all the trees will stay wet. So again, I haven't lived here long enough to see that. I've been here 4 years, and one was really bad, 1 out of 4.
Great.
So last year we got a little bit of a bye. Hopefully this will, but the 2 years ago was horrendous. So hopefully that won't be our fate this year. So hoping for that for everybody, and giving the firefighters a little bit of time off. But I'm sure, you know, even though we're spared, somewhere else is going to need that. So yes,
Carol is saying we're at Mount Rushmore. I'm sorry, Becky. She's saying she's at Mount Rushmore, and the smoke from the Canadian wildfires is obstructing the view. I remember living in Chicago. They'd have wildfires in Northern California, and I could smell the redwoods burning. Yeah. So I believe I think it's Pete. I said, I'm sorry, Pete, if I've got the wrong one. It is Peter. Peter says we don't even need China and Russia have non-nuclear EMP weapons. He's absolutely right. So maybe that's the case, right? Maybe they go, great, we don't need a nuclear weapon. We'll just bring down their grid, and then we'll start landing people on the shores. They got a few more troops than we have. Last I checked.
So people are telling us with kind of like the Al Roker, like what's going on in their neck of the woods. So I'm actually today, Brian, you'll be with me on this. Eric, this is the first time we haven't seen him. He hasn't showed up yet. Maybe he's hiding out. Maybe he's commenting on all the comments from yesterday's video still. And
there were a lot of comments.
Yeah. So we realized that our people are very passionate about their country, which again, we should be, definitely. So if you haven't watched that, you can go back and check that out, and you'll either Love it or hate it, that's for sure, or
you'll
somewhere in between. Or you'll be moved. Pray for the country.
Yeah, you'll be moved for sure. That's what honor, duty, and country means. That's the motto from West Point.
I would like to introduce a segment, Bobby. Do you hit it, Bobby?
Hold up, I gotta find it.
But it is for future, so I'm putting it out there for all our PAC members to help with this. So it's kind of what's going on in your neck of the woods, right? Or some of the other YouTubers call it boots on the grounds, right? So basically, it's called State of Affairs. So I would like to invite all of our PAC to let us know what's going on in your state or what you've seen. Like Montana Nana was saying, just saw balloons going over her house. I mean, like, so just let us know, kind of keeping the PAC informed, right? 20 more subs, is that true?
Yes.
Probably, I'll check.
All right, that's great.
$5 footlongs. So howl at nutrientsurvival.com. We are going to have a segment down the road as soon as we compile things, enough of, it could be a photo, it could be a story, it could be what you've seen, it could be what you've experienced in your own town. It could be like the egg prices are still $14.99 at Walmart, like whatever, just to keep us informed, because more people, more eyes we have on the project and what's going on, the more that we can be informed, because, you know, we have smoke. New Jersey's getting tornadoes. I mean, so it really is a way for us to stay interconnected and kind of see what's, you know, good or bad possible. And again, maybe it's a good story. Maybe you've seen some legal justice happen, right? Or you've seen some farmer get some good aid or something like that. So let us know what's going on. Or if anything suspicious, send us some suspicion.
Wouldn't you like to hear from someone at the southern border? I mean, all we ever hear is the media talking about it.
The media can definitely spin things.
Yes, they can. So I think, Becky, your segment will be great because people can actually come on. Hopefully we'll collect video of it if they have something that's going on with train derailments and bad weather.
And if your story is great, we will, you know, vet you and have you on. Like you could come tell your story if you want to be seen. Again, you put yourself out there in public. You're now a public figure, whether it's on a YouTube channel or not. Like you're definitely putting a name and a face, so that is risky. So if you're somebody who lives their life as a great man, then that's absolutely fine. Tell us your story. We would love to hear it, and we'd love to just stay connected with everything that's going on in this country, right? So each state has a little bit different law. Each state lives a little bit differently. So we love to hear about it to keep us all informed, so that we're just not making stuff up from the media, that we actually have a PAC on the grounds. You know, we have
very nice. I love that idea.
Nose to the ground, wolves. Nose to the ground.
Because you guys and girls can't get everywhere that's going on. So wouldn't it be great if someone could, like in my own state, I felt bad that I was tied up and actually out of the state. But when the train derailed, not all that far from me, how great would it have been for me to be able to head up over there and get
reporters?
Video.
You could buy. You guys could be like the PAC reporters. Start interviewing people for us too. That would be
back to you in the studio, Eric. Right?
And if they're not like, if they don't know nutrient survival, send them our way. I'll send them a sample.
Yeah. And if you're going to be a reporter, just remember, because I used to be one in Chicago a lot of years ago, you have to talk in 3-word sentences. And now, back to you.
Okay, so I'm going to talk in 4 words. I'm going to talk in 4 words right now.
Okay.
Like us.
Oh, yeah, or subscribe. Comments. Becky and Brian banter.
Notify.
Bobby, where are we?
Subscribe.
We're at 973.
973.
73.
All right. Well, we're going to move on. So, Brian, you ready to Becky and Brian go nuts?
Go nuts.
We're going to go nuts. I think we already went a little nuts.
We're going to go nuts. All right. So we need 25 more people. Is that it? We need 24.
I'm going to give something away anyway because that's close enough. Because we're going to get that when we get off.
Okay. Call your family. Call your friends. We got a big thing going. This thing we're getting ready to come on now. We talked about making history. If Nutrient Survival reaches 10,000, right? We're ready to go. Becky's got her paracord. She's ready to party. All right. So everyone.
So how much feet do I need?
I would say just a throw of each, 1 foot of each, or if you can use a 2-foot segment, we're going to talk about the bite. We're going to talk about doubling it up.
But is this long enough?
Sure. I just double it over for me. So you got a loop like this, right?
Hold on. I'm going to, so 2, I don't know if that's 2 feet, but
that's good. Enough. Does it look like this?
I'm having issues. Okay. All right. So it's probably 2 feet. I did a Becky math, which is not usually good.
Go like this. Well, it'll be the same thing if you got two. You take one piece for me.
I have
take
one piece.
Take one piece. Go like this.
Is everyone following along? First you take the string. Okay.
So here's the scoop. Talk about neuroplasticity. And I know everyone's tired. Believe me, my family's tired of it. When I was in the hospital bed all those months recovering, I had a stick. Right? Everyone goes, yeah, Brian with the stick. That's the last thing. I had a stick and I had a piece of rope. I actually had a ring, too.
Wait, do I need a stick?
Because, no, not for this. Because I wanted my mind to work in a way that had never been done before. So when I talk about books of knots, I had them sent to me in the hospital. So I'm lying there, tubes, breather, the whole shoot match, and I'm working on knots so that I could get my brain to focus on something it had never done before. At Christmas time, my two youngest sons got books on knots. Next year, my daughter will be old enough. She'll get a book on knots so that you're able. Is Bobby saying something? Is he whispering that you reached 10,000?
People are saying.
I'm probably lagging. I assume they're right.
Wait, how do they see that? I have like 2992 on mine.
Let's not bury the lead. Get it? Let's not bury the lead.
Okay,
Where are we? Are we at 10,000? Are we at 10,000? I'm distracted. Who cares what I have to say? Are you guys at 10,000 yet? Okay.
Brian, this is my learn something new
If I have to get on my own phone and check your numbers, I'll do it, darn it. Okay, so here, you just take it. I have one piece of knot. You go like this. So I make it so that I have a double overhand.
Double?
You just take a second.
Whoa. Like this.
Hold on 1 second. So you take your, right?
I got in half, yep.
Okay, so you go like this. You're making a big loop around and in. So when you have it, I like to use this sometimes even around
loop around, is that right?
Loop around, yep, and you'll have it just like this. Because the basic of this rope
yours is much thicker than mine. Should I go double? Yeah. I'm going to double that.
If you want. Some people do go double, but I just brought it so it would be easier for people to see as I'm doing it.
No, I know, so I failed on that, so I'm going to see if I can make it more dramatic.
I go down like this. I'm holding this part with my thumb. I just make the loop.
So it's in half, right?
And I draw the top part. I draw the arch, if you will, through the hole and pull down. Now I have a pretty solid anchor. And if you're really worried about it pulling through, like if you have a piece of rope like I do, I'll put another knot in it just to secure it to keep from running through. But from here, you can hang anything on this knot.
Wait, let me see the second knot that you pulled through.
Just an overhand knot, regular old everyday overhand knot, right? Like you would tie a knot in your shoe. So I have it because that way the rope isn't going to slip through this knot. And then you can take this. You can anchor this around a tree. You can do just about anything you want because this knot is not going anywhere. Now, that's a downside of this knot because it can be hard to undo after you've put... No, you got it.
No, I have too many tentacles. I have a bunch of like frayed knot.
Okay, a frayed knot. Does that make sense? So now you can use this loop.
So it's just a double anchor.
Yes, exactly. You have it.
Okay, do you got one more for us? Do you got another knot with that big thing?
One of the things that I do no. One of the things that I like to do all the time is with my sons is to take a piece of rope, tie them or toss them a stick and go, okay, if you're going to use this stick, and there's a way with a rope and a stick, if you have multiple sticks, you can make ladders, you can do anything you want. So I like to go around the stick twice, and it teaches them how to start working the tie if you're trying to notch it down, like the back of a truck bumper or the like, so that you have the tie on the stick itself, and from there, you can start making all kinds of knots, including with the knot you just had. You come back through here, and now...
Are you building a playground?
This thing isn't going anywhere.
Oh,
okay, this isn't going anywhere. You could build a playground. There's a way, if you had enough sticks, to be able... I
feel like you built a zip line.
Well, here's the thing. It's kind of the lazy guys and girls way of starting a monkey fist, because in an emergency situation, if you have to throw a piece of rope, what I like to do with this, Becky, is just I'll keep doing it to make enough.
Wait, can you bring your hands up just a little bit higher?
I'm sorry. Enough kinks in the knot so it's like a baseball. So imagine this other end of the rope is piled up 400 yards behind me. I have this enough to be able to throw it. Throw it. So if I have to get across the crevasse, I have a triple
Wait, you're going to try to hook that in something and then
no,
trust
I throw it
it
to the person that's on the other side of the edge for me.
Got it.
Right? So it's called a monkey's fist. It is, but if you're on the other side or you're trying to get the rope up the window.
Yeah, it's a softball toss to the other side.
Yeah. I'm going to say a poor man's version or a poor woman's version of a monkey's fist, which you've seen in sailing.
This is my playground, folks.
Which is you keep making a knot to make certain that it's got a little bit of girth to it, so you can throw it if you have to.
Very simple, folks.
Very simple. All right, so where can I keep asking? I have a one-track mind. I'm like a lab.
What are you asking? I'm making knots.
Where are we? Are we at 10,000? Are you at 10,000? All right.
I don't know. Are we?
I don't know. But anyway,
all right, that's it. I'm getting the phone.
I'm going to take a moment, and I'm going to do a word from our sponsor.
Oh, great. I'm going online.
Is sponsored today. So Brian is Mortal Up, but today's sponsored is us, Nutrient Survival.
Oh, look how that works.
Okay, hold that thought.
Yeah. Eric, look out. I'm coming for your job.
You can have it.
Wait. Was he there? Wait, who said that? Was that Eric?
No.
No. Oh.
Hi, I'm Becky Goff, not Eric Christensen, not a CEO or a former Army Ranger. In the times of stress, the mind and body can fail. That's why you need Nutrient Survival.
Or a former Army Ranger.
Bobby, that's you.
No, that was me. I'm busy checking our numbers. I'm sorry. It's my fault, Bobby. Don't take the fall for me.
So Eric's not losing his job on the commercial
In the times of stress, when you're interrupted and you need to improvise, the mind and body can fail.
Yes, it can. I'm told.
That's why you need Nutrient Survival. Top shelf, delicious. Way to switch the camera, Bobby.
Oh, sorry.
Special ops grade nutrition.
That's a heck of a pantry you got there.
Is this a joke for you now, Bobby?
No, I see the pantry. It looks good. The shelves.
No. He keeps switching the cameras.
9,998. I'm sorry. I'm talking over your lead. I'm sorry.
Designed to the nutritional standards of the U.S. military, but intended for people like us.
Right.
Way to disrupt that, everybody.
No, I think it's good. Can I give my quick little ad? Never surrender, never settle, never stress, Nutrient Survival. I think you ought to have a segment where people send in their definition of what the acronym NS is. Mine is never surrender, never settle, Nutrient Survival. But I've done it differently now. I go, never stress.
On the live stream,
Nutrient
it stands
Survival.
for nonsense.
All right, I have 9,000.98. Bobby, what does that mean?
We will put that in the link.
9,900 and I don't know.
How do you
it looks like we're stuck at 97. So I have this official report in the Google backend. So if you have a channel.
Yeah.
And mine is stuck at 9982 now. It's not really moving now.
Okay, but that's close enough, folks. We're going to give something away here.
Oh, you've wanted to do this since we started. What are you kidding? I'm sorry.
When Eric is not in the house, I like to give things away.
Okay.
So today, in the honor of our great nation and what's going on in the state of affairs, we're going to just keep it simple. We're going to keep it simple, back to basic American good citizen colors, red, white, and blue. Okay?
Oh, I like it.
So today we're going to give away some lasagna.
Ooh. That's good stuff.
Some vanilla shake, red, white, and blue mac and cheese. So today, folks, we are giving away this wonderful thing. But wait.
There's more.
There's more. Like a good infomercialist, but wait, there's more.
I feel like Ed McMahon.
What else do they get, Becky?
What else do they get, Becky? Please tell our audience.
We get a nice Nutrient Survival t-shirt, and you can send this along with your size. So that's what we're doing today. So we're giving away the red, white, and blue. We're giving away our wonderful
very nice.
Triple Cheese Max single stack just in time for a bug out bag in case the apocalypse happens, like tonight with the solar flare. Or it's great for camping because camping season, we can keep it light. Everybody wants to get outside, get back to nature, keep it simple. It's a great time of year that we're going to start doing that. Our vanilla shake and then our Triple Cheese Mac. Ooh. All these need add water, preferably warm water for these two, and then any additives, either if you like it with any kind of dairy or non-dairy additives or some ice. This is an amazing, full, all-inclusive macro nutrients shake on the go. So we have our t-shirts and we have the red, white, and blue Becky pack because Eric's away. Give it away today. That's what I'm talking about. And then if we get to 10,000, I got something special. But okay, so the
did we not get to 10,000 still?
Are we still not at 10,000?
Turn my phone on.
Should I refresh it?
I'm turning my
phone
phone
like it
on.
could
I'd
happen.
ask the audience, but I think they're going to lie.
Today. It's going to happen today. I'm refreshing mine.
Wi-Fi. I turned my phone off so it wouldn't ring during the interview. I'm turning it on.
The code today is going to be 3 symbols, 10K. So 10 and capital K. 10 capital K for 10K because we're going to will it. We're going to will it to happen. So put it in, your chance to win. I'm letting loose. This isn't really me letting loose. I want to give a bucket away if we get to 10,000.
Oh, wow.
Oh, did I say that out loud? Did I say that out loud?
I heard it. I don't know if it counts. I don't even know if we're still on air. I heard you say it.
Instead of your Easter basket, it's your Easter bucket. So
well, see, now everyone's saying 10K.
Now 10K.
Look,
is that it? 10,000. Congratulations, you
10K.
two. That's great.
Now everybody's saying 10K.
Really 10K?
It's going to happen today.
It must be.
It's going to happen today.
What does the 10K on the screen mean? Is that where you're going to
just go back and comment on yesterday's video, good or bad, and we will drive that algorithm to new audiences because that video has a lot of traction. So that really does help us, and really subscribing to us, liking us, getting your kids to subscribe to like us, and then staying off the internet. Get them to do it, and then get them off the internet and get them outside camping. So
yes, get them
10K,
outside doing something.
Carol, I'm letting it loose. Woo-woo. Crazy.
Have you really reached 10,000? That's a great. Congratulations.
I'm thinking. Well, they're saying 998. Man, we're still at like 2 away.
2 away.
So Brian, do you have? So I have a New York police officer question. What is What is your? Don't go scare and despair, but like any stories that are really memorable that have. Not left your conscious, or you feel like you did. How about you did something that was really made a difference in the sense that it was on the good, not on the bad. Let's go with uplifting towards as we take this out.
Let's go with uplifting. I remember an occasion where I ran into a house that was on fire to help get the person out. A young lady had run out and said her father was still inside on the couch. And this is a cautionary tale. Don't run into a house that's on fire in an attempt to save someone that's burning on the couch, because I ended up with lungs full of smoke and there was all kinds of negative stuff. And thankfully, the person had made it out the front door as I was going in the back. And it was the fire department that ended up pulling me out. So I would say, of anything, that was one of the things that I can talk about that sticks in my mind, was that sense of thinking I could help another person in need, which is why most of us that take the oath, we believe that that's what we'll be doing. As you said earlier, Becky, there's some people that absolutely believe that they're supposed to put their life on their line. And that's why we still all get along today, people that feel the way I do.
We thank you for that. There are definitely a lot of people that like to run to, and there are people that like to run from. That doesn't make you good or bad. That just makes you good or bad. Just makes you aware of what your instinct leans when something like that pops up. So we thank you. We thank everybody out there, military, law enforcement, for your service. Always, always, always. That is like definitely, we don't say it enough, but it's definitely something that we stand by as a brand and a channel. So absolutely true. And which is why I'm proud to be affiliated with you all, right? And can I say this one thing, Becky, before we get ready to go? Yes. I don't know if we're trying 10,000. 99999. 9999. Remember that in any survival situation, what you ultimately have to decide is who works for who. Do you work for your brain, or does your brain work for you? So in an emergency situation, are you going to use those fight, flight, and freeze chemicals? Are you going to use those chemicals? Or are those chemicals going to use you? And I think, to your point of what differentiates people from those that run to the sound of fire as opposed to those that run from it, I think a part of it is that people that run to it have decided to remind their mind who works for who. And those chemicals, when they present themselves, will you use those chemicals to move forward?
or will you allow those chemicals to cause you to cower in fear? I think it really comes down to, right, those neurochemicals in your brain. Always remember that in any survival situation, your mind works for you. It's not the other way around.
It is amazing. The body does release, like in any kind of stress, your body doesn't know what stress it is, whether it's mental stress or it's physical stress, but your body releases that, shot of adrenaline and that cortisol, which when kept inside, if you don't fight it when you flight it, then it builds up inside of you, right? In the sense
it does.
Nervous system disease, stress, high blood pressure, whatever. But it is designed, if you took away the cozy comforts, as you say, the creature comforts of the last couple hundred years, the body was made to flee and to rise chemically to the occasion. And what you do with that, after that, the body has equipped you to get out of it. It's a matter of just steering those chemicals to get you to where you need to go, right? So
I absolutely agree.
It is fascinating. The body is just an amazing full mind-body connection that the mind and the body definitely, perceives things that we don't even consciously sometimes know that's happening.
And I think we forget that, Becky. I think we forget how special we are.
10K is it? 3 letters if you want to win this red, white, and blue and T-shirt.
And we're about to call it. So
God
97 of you have entered. There's 116 on the stream.
Okay.
Someone's about to get left out.
You better have subscribed and liked, and you could win free stuff. If we can just take one more check. Subscribe.
2, 1. You were too slow.
Okay. And it's I1@nutrientsurvival.com. We'll put that up in just a second. Come on. Peter Roos, Rock and Moss, Mark Davis, Lurch. Sparky's Run.
Sparky's Run. Look at that. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Sparky's Run. I1@nutrientsurvival.com. T-shirt size. Hopefully I'll have it in black. If not, I can send you in the standard Nutrient Survival green.
Or
nice green. Yeah, I love that the color, like the camo green. So we'll send that out. Bobby, give me a last number on there.
I don't even know. Mine is still lagging.
All right. So next week.
No. We're staying on all night. It's like a telethon. Yes, we are. All right. Okay. Until we hit 10,000, we're not giving up the calm. I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm showing 996 now on my screen. I know we're lagging.
I'm going to need a snack. It's a good thing I brought a Nutrient Survival bar.
No. I think we're close enough. But
okay.
Well, you know what? Let's hold
like Bobby. Bobby's going to check.
So, Brian, where can they find you? Tell us a little bit about your channel, what you got going on, and you be our first state of affairs.
I would love to be your state of affairs. This is Brian Brawdy reporting to you live from wherever. But just Mortal Up, MORTAL up. One word, mortalup.com. And of course, as you all know, I'm excited to do Friday Night Firelights tomorrow night, which is, thank you all very much for being a sponsor. Nutrient Survival is a sponsor. I'll be doing it from the Firebugs Fire Pit live tomorrow. We'll be talking about some of this, but there's some other things we're going to do. And we'll be discussing how to be your own best friend. How to make certain that in an emergency situation, the very best you rises to the challenge as opposed to cowering in the corner. Where are we?
When you say best friend, be your own best friend, I just go right to the movie Spaceballs, where the guy is half man, half dog. He's his own best friend. He's a mog. He's his own best friend.
That, but thank you very much. Talk about using your brain in a different way. I never thought of that. Thank you very much. Mortalup.com. Thank you, Bobby. So
Bobby, appreciate that. All right, Bobby, I think we're, Brian,
cool.
We appreciate you. We thank you. We thank the mods again. We have JT, Yarn, B, who did I miss? JT, Yarn.
Jan. Jan's the latest.
Jan. Thank you, Jan.
So we appreciate you all. Again, we thank you. Check us out. Keep watching the videos. Keep subscribing. Keep on. Never stop prepping. Thank you to Brian Brawdy, Mortal Up. Check him out. And
we're out.
Namaste.
Namaste.